Okay, who the heck is Cheng? Well, let's put my bag here nice and secure, and quite a good armrest actually. But yes, this video is all about me, and I think it's way overdue simply because this channel has been going on for 2.5, almost 3 years now, and there was never a video basically talking about me, who I am and what I do on a daily basis. Well, to start with, I am not a professional YouTuber, at least not yet. I am a full-time photographer, so I do make my living out from photography, which I do a lot of portraits, weddings, travel documentaries, and so forth and so on. But yeah, today's video is all about my work and a little bit so I can show you what I do, and just to give you a little bit of accreditation so you know exactly where I'm coming from, and my knowledge actually comes from where I'm working. And so yeah, in the future, if I do any tutorials and things like that, and yeah, this is all coming from my own knowledge and also my own experience. So there you go, this is all about photography, and I am learning a little bit about filmmaking. So yeah, learning that from Tracy, because she is actually a professional filmmaker, and yeah, I learned a lot from her. She's just brilliant, and yeah, so together we're a good team. You know, I'm from the photography background, she's from the filmmaking background, so it's quite a good gel together for this YouTube channel. So hopefully in the very near future, you'll find this channel very helpful, not only just for the fun reviews that we always do, but also in terms of knowledge sharing and also learning as well. But to give you a little bit of a background about myself, and I have been photographing professionally for about 10 years now. But my photographic journey actually started around about 15-16 years ago, and before that I was actually an engineer. I studied civil engineering in London and graduated with a major in structural engineering, and subsequently I was working as a structural consultant designing buildings in London, believe me or not, and they are still standing. And this is one of the reasons why I chose this magnificent background behind me, because I always appreciate the architecture and the structure of this Parliament building behind me. Always love it, and that's one of the reasons why I always come back here to do like portrait shoots and things like that for my clients, and just because that's my own personal preference. Not so much I can say about these days. As you can see that those scaffolding behind me, and then the Big Ben also covered with scaffolds because of the ongoing restoration. Yeah, but other than that, it's still a beautiful place here, and especially this stretch here, this is called the Queen's Walk, is beautiful here. And you know, at night time, evening, you can get some cracking shots around here, so you have to come here and check that out. But anyway, how did I start photography? Well, I always loved taking my cameras around, even though I wasn't really serious about it. I was given a point and shoot by my parents. You know, it was a Pentax, I think it was a 35mm point and shoot, and yeah, it's just nothing fancy, just a simple camera that I used to travel with when I was a student. And I first picked up an SLR when I was at uni actually, and I was going out on a field trip with my mates, and we spent a week in Wales, like hunting castles. This is one of my things that I was doing at the time, and they all had SLRs, and so after the trip, when we went back, developed all the films. Yes, analog I'm talking about. When I looked at the photos, I said, oh my god, your photo turned out so much better than mine. And you know, at the time I wasn't know too much about photography, but I did save some money and got myself the very first Canon SLR. It was the I think it was the 50E. Pretty cool camera actually. So that was my camera for my first 5 years. I was just taught, like, really photographing a lot with that thing, and just only one kit lens, and that's kind of how I started. A little bit more serious, but yet I wasn't developing any sort of artistic angle and things like that. But things all changed when I moved digital. I got my very first digital DSLR, and that was the 5D full frame, and I started photography about 2000, I think that was 2005 when it first came out, or 2008, correct me if I'm wrong, but I loved the camera and I was traveling around with it. And then what happened was I went to China, and that's when everything changed, because I took a series of really interesting traveling documentary photos, because I went to some really amazing places, and it's just cool. So what happened was I published those photos, or self-published them on my blog site, and what happened? I got picked up. I got picked up by business insiders in the US and Australia, and also National Geographic Online. They were contacting me, saying that we can feature some of the photos, and I agreed. And it was becoming quite popular. People starting asking me about things, and that's kind of how I thought maybe I could do something with the camera more seriously, maybe even in a professional capacity. So this is something that I was exploring, and certainly that's how I ended up where I am now. So after traveling in China, and I also do a few more travel trips and continue doing my travel photography, which also proven to be quite popular, and then a lot of my photos were actually published, funny enough, in Canon magazines in Hong Kong and China, and also some in Nikon Malaysia. Yeah, I don't know why Nikon picked up my photos when I was actually a Canon user, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. And my photos were published, and then I actually thought, you know, I was quite proud of it, and I was quite enjoying what I was doing, all the kind of limelight in a way, because people were contacting me via the internet, and so yeah, I was all pumped about that. So I started getting inquiries about, you know, from people that I know, and yeah, man, I saw your photos, beautiful, you know, would you like to do some photos for my wedding? I'm getting married. So well, hang on a second, you know, I did travel photography. It wasn't really something that I was hoping to get into, you know, like in terms of like doing weddings and portraits and things like that. That wasn't really even my thing. I hardly shoot any people, and but there you go, I actually agreed to do it, and I actually said to them, you know, and I had no idea what I was doing, so don't expect a lot from me. And but they totally trusted me, and then said, yeah, fine, you know, just do whatever you want, whatever you think it looked beautiful, you know, just capture the shots, you know. So that's how I kind of got started in wedding photography, and just never really stopped since. So that's 10 years ago now, and so I've been doing that for quite some time, and yeah, things just got exploded after a couple of years, and people really liked my photos and starting to look at my websites and things like that. And then also during the kind of wedding business, and 2-3 years in, I started to think about something else. You know, I was thinking about documentary. You know, like I have a service called Love Journey, which is actually about the beginning of a couple's journey, not just about the wedding day, because, you know, as you know, wedding just one part of your journey, but what I'm curious and what I'm fascinated by is actually what happened before that. So this Love Journey thing that I was doing is basically asking a couple, you know, where they met and how they started, and we go back to those places, you know, just to revisit all the memories. And that service proven to be very popular, and even more so than my wedding work. And that's actually why I'm actually doing what I'm doing at the moment, because I do majority portrait works in and around London, about different locations and things like that. And also a lot of my clients are actually Americans, because they saw my work online, they're quite fascinated by it, and they love to do similar things when they're in London. So this is kind of cool, you know, I totally in love with it, and this is what I've been doing on a daily basis. In fact, this morning, just before I shoot this vlog, and then I just finished another portrait session in around this area, so it's pretty amazing. Okay. So I guess I cannot end this video without talking a little bit about my cameras, and also, you know, why I end up being an Olympus guy. Well, I have to say, you know, for the majority of my 15 years career that you actually heard about, and I mostly use Canon, to be quite honest. I started with the film SLR, the 50E I told you about when I was having a school trip, and then I had my first full frame Canon D 5D, and then I had the Mark II, then Mark III, doing all my wedding works and things like that. And yeah, I was happy with it, you know, and but it was just heavy, you know. I didn't really like about the bulk, especially all those pro lenses that I had, all the 1.2 primes and also the 2.8 zoom lenses. They were just massive, and every weddings I go to, every travel that I go, I have to have suitcases, you know, and things like that. It's just becoming too cumbersome for me, and that kind of changed when in 2012, you know, when I picked up the original Olympus, I think it was the OMD EM5 Mark 1, the original one. I love the look, you know, to be honest. That was such a sexy camera, you know. I really enjoyed that. I was in Hong Kong at the time actually, and then I just picked it up and thought, oh, that looks gorgeous, and it's so tiny. It was so small, and the image quality actually, it was amazing, you know, even though it's only 16 megapixel. But to be quite honest, for majority of my work, you know, it's plenty enough for 16 megapixels, and then I was using it mainly for my kind of like traveling and also kind of family thing. Yeah, just been hanging around with me most of the time because it's so tiny, and so most of the time when I'm doing non-professional work, I leave my Canon gears at home, and I actually picked up the EM5 when I'm out and about. So it's just kind of like the beginning of it. I was using more and more of the EM5, and I found that it's quite intuitive to use and very well built, weather sealed and everything. It's just so small and light, and you know what everybody said, the best camera is the one that you always use and always next to you. So in fact, that EM5 was the one, even though I wasn't even using any using it for a professional environment. So but I was using it a lot, so much so I bought the Mark II to replace the original. It was fun as well, you know. I enjoyed that camera, even better built, you know. It has more features, and the video was actually quite decent, so I will stick to doing a little bit of videoing with the EM5 Mark II. And yeah, this is another thing that I love about it. Just amazing, but yet I still haven't actually used it for professional stuff. I did bring the EM5 Mark II together with my Canon stuff as a backup camera, so I did take some shots, just more like a taster, see whether I could actually use it in weddings, and guess what, I could. And yeah, that's kind of why I slowly edging more and more into Micro Four Thirds world. And everything changed when 2016, when Olympus announced the EM1 Mark II, which is what I'm using right now. And Olympus was kind enough to invite me to test the camera in Ronda, Spain. I had 2 days with it, and you know what, I was blown away by it, and I never looked back. You know, I was trying a lot of the pro lenses, the 12 to 40 f2.8, and then I had a couple of primes to play with, the 45-1.8 and then the 25-1.8. At the time there was no the 1.2 pro lenses yet, so I wasn't really trying any of those. They did have the 25-1.2, which I love. You know, that's one of the first lenses I bought actually for professional outfit actually. So that was it. When the EM1 Mark II came out, I tried it, loved it. That's it. I sold my Canon gears and I moved completely into Micro Four Thirds. Never looked back, and I enjoy it so much, and now I'm a full Olympus guy. And yeah, there you go, that's my journey to Olympus. But in between, I did dabble about different systems and tried out different things. I did use Sony, didn't really quite like it. I tried Fuji. Again, you know, like, it's, even though it's mirrorless, even though it's APS-C, but the lenses are still relatively big. If you want to use the 1.2 lenses or the 2.8 zoom lenses, they're still quite big. And I also tried the Leica, which I still use the Leica actually for some of my street work and documentary stuff. But majority of my professional work now, I use Micro Four Thirds and the Olympus system. So I guess this is the end of the video. So thank you for watching it, and thank you for learning a little bit about myself as a person and as a photographer. Also, thank you for supporting this channel for the last 2.5 years now, three years almost, you know, and thank you for. And you haven't subscribed already, please considering by clicking that subscribe button, and also stay notified by clicking that bell button as well. So until next time, I guess I have to say goodbye. See you soon. Bye.